It feels so good. Doesn't it feel so good? I gotta be honest. I can't. I don't know what feels better for me personally. Outside of my children, outside of my two daughters doing, amazing kid things. I don't know what feels better to me than my Seahawks going out and playing great football and defying the odds and beating great teams. That really turns me on, I gotta tell you. What's going on, Hawk fans? This is Rob English, your Socal Seahawk, and thank you for joining me on another edition of Short Yardage. And I'm so excited after Sunday night's game that I'm doing this podcast. I normally don't get this podcast up till like middle end of the week, but I'm so excited. I'm wasting no time. I almost did it last night after the game. But the Seattle Seahawks had the Eagles over for dinner and served them up right. Now, to anyone who follows my podcast or my articles on SeattleSportsUnion.com, speaking of, everybody check out www.SeattleSportsUnion.com. Check out the articles from myself and my colleagues there. We cover everything from the Mariners to the Mist and obviously the Seahawks. A lot of great content there. Check us out on Facebook, Seattle Sports Union, and on Twitter at Seattle Sports U. But I said in my article and in my podcast before the game that we were going to win this game. I thought it was going to happen a little bit differently than it did. I didn't expect us to just hold serve all game long the way we did. That part was a surprise to me. I thought that we were going to play chase for most of this game, and I thought it was going to be high scoring on both ends. Just like it has been for any other game that we played against somebody who was formidable, at least since the defense has been, banged up. But no, I did say that we were going to hold down the run, and we did that. But I did not foresee that we were going to just really shut them down the way that we did. That part was totally surprising. It was a great game, but it was surprising, obviously. Obviously, it was a great game. But what a game. I loved how we come out on the first play of the game and run and do the designed run to Russell Wilson. I think it was a read option play. Russell kept it right around the corner, got good yard. I on the pregame show, hope you guys got a chance to catch the pregame show, SSU Live, again, Seattle Sports Union. We had Seattle Mist LFL champion Jessica Hopkins on the show, and it was awesome. Great show. We loved having her on. She knows her football, and it was great to have her on as a guest, and hope to have her again soon because that was a whole lot of fun. But we talked about this game ahead of time, and one of the things that we touched on was, whether or not Russell Wilson was going to be, let loose, if you will, in the running game. And I contended that no, probably not. You don't want your quarterback running when he doesn't have to. And at this point in Russell Wilson's career, we don't need him taking any extra hits, trying to make him part of the actual running game, by philosophy. And then on the very first play of the game, he takes the read option around the corner. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're wrong. But he actually didn't end up running the ball. I don't know if there was any other runs by Russell Wilson that were by play call. He did scramble a couple of times and take off. But I don't know if those were, I don't think there was any actually designed runs to Russell outside the first play of the game. But I think that was huge in the game because it put that bug in the ear of the Philadelphia defense. it just reminded them, they put it in the back of their head, oh yeah, Russell can run too. So I think that helped. I think that helped just kind of keep their feet on the ground. So that was huge. Great game by Russell. On that note, I mean, he didn't go for huge numbers as far as his passing yards, but 3 touchdowns. You can't get mad at that. You certainly can't get mad at him throwing 3 TDs, no interceptions. The play where he took off running and flipped the ball back to Davis. I mean, how awesome was that? How awesome was he, was it to see him have the intelligence to see his running back trailing behind him and keep his awareness, have the awareness to see him there and flip it back to him. Now, I know there's a lot of conversation about that ball being a lateral, and I've heard 2 different theories. I don't know which one is actually correct, but I've heard that. So I'll start with the one that I don't agree with. I don't think is the truth, but I've heard that as long as the lateral is actually directed backwards, even if the ball ultimately travels forward, it's still considered a legal backward pass. Now, I don't believe that's true, but that's just what I've heard. I don't, and obviously I've heard, the opposition. I think I don't think it matters the intention of the lateral, whether or not you actually throw it behind you as a person. I don't think the player position matters. All that matters is the ball's position on the field, as it travels. So if you watch the play, Russell certainly threw the ball behind him, but the ball technically did travel, what I saw, about a half a yard forward from when the ball left Russell Wilson's hand and hit Mike Davis's hands. The ball had actually moved forward on the field, but it was obviously a backwards lateral. If that makes any sense. The ball was thrown behind Russell Wilson, but still, inertia, momentum caused the ball to still actually travel forward, on the field of play. So if that is a forward lateral, then hey, we got away with one. If it's a backward lateral, great play either way. I honestly think that the replay wasn't even, I don't think the replay was even conclusive enough for them to overturn it, even if they had challenged it. That was a big thing. Why didn't he challenge it? Doug Peterson didn't challenge the play. And I think the reason he didn't challenge it is because they couldn't. I mean, it isn't like Doug Peterson is the one, looking at the screen or looking at the Microsoft Surface. He's not the one looking at the tablet making the call. He's relying on his constituents to radio down to him and say, hey, challenge that. We looked at it, challenge it. You only have a few seconds to do it, but you got to make that call. You got to make it quick. People are saying Doug Peterson is the one who screwed up. Like, no, he was on the field. He's not looking at anything, except for maybe the jumbotron, in the stadium. But I think that was, it's really hard to tell. It was you have to really look at it in super, super slow motion to see that it even did kind of travel forward. But I wonder if they even would have been able to overturn that. And they do tend to stick with the call on the field. The call on the field was that it was a good lateral. So I honestly think that they probably would have just left it anyway. But still a great play. And Mike Davis didn't, he didn't have outrageous yards. Well, he was 16 for 64. So it's 4 yards a carry. Can't get mad at that. But he had some burst plays. He looked good. It was great to see him running with the intensity. He had the mind to make the extra move. He had one run where he went around the right side and he would step back and then make another cut. He was running like a guy who's trying to make his name known in this league, who's finally got a chance. He brought up from the practice squad and he's making the most of his opportunity. Great to see. continuing with the offense, again, Russell, he was 20 for 31 for 227. Those aren't mind-blowing mind-blowing numbers, but the 3 touchdowns, I love that. Okay, we only, with the exception of the first drive where we had to put the ball on the ground and let Blair Walsh kick it away, which I wasn't happy about, and not so much about it being only 3 points. It's just that whenever the Blair Walsh is on the field, I'm just not feeling very good. But I loved that we didn't kick another field goal the rest of the game. That's what we need to do. We can't count on Blair Walsh to win games for us. He's not Stephen Hauschka. We could win a game, get 12 points off Stephen Hauschka back in the day. I don't see Blair Walsh being that guy for us. So I love that we scored touchdowns. We scored touchdowns on Sunday night. That was great to see. Doug Baldwin, 5 catches, 84 yards. Russell found him on a big one that he almost scored on. That was a great play. Nick Vanette did well in his opportunities. 3 for 40. Jimmy Graham with another red zone touchdown. Great pass. Russell Wilson hit Tyler Lockett on a I guess we call that a flag or a corner route. It was just a great game. It was just awesome to see the offense just really, the whole team hold serve for the entire game. Just it's tough to find any issue with the game. The running game obviously, still had its, times that just didn't look all that great, and Russell Wilson did take a couple of sacks, but we're making it work. We're making it work. I've said in previous weeks, you may remember that I wasn't overly impressed with any of the wins that we had so far this year. People were getting all excited because we beat the Texans in the way that we beat them. And when we beat the Giants and when we beat the Colts, I'm just like, there's no reason to be excited about those wins. There's no reason to be excited about whooping up on the Colts, especially the way it happened. There's no reason to be excited about beating up on the Giants, especially the way it happened. There's no reason to be excited about how we won the Houston game, except for if you want to get excited about the fact that the offense was able to stick with them. But there's no reason to get excited about Houston. Like, that was a rookie quarterback that came into our house and just tossed the football all over us. That's not a reason to be excited. You only get excited because you barely beat a team who had a rookie quarterback. I don't care how good he is or how good he might end up being. He's a rookie. That team should not have been able to come into our house and do that, in my opinion. But we won the game, and it was great that we were able to win that game. But I talk about impressive wins. Up until last night, the only impressive win, up until, I should say, since I'm doing this as a record, I should say, up until Sunday night, the only impressive win, the truly impressive win that we had this year was against the Rams. And that was without even scoring a whole lot of points. But that was an impressive win because we went in against a division rival who always plays us tough. And we went into their house and beat them when they were, at the time, the best team in football. They were the best offense in football on that day until we played them. And the same thing holds true for Sunday night against Philly. They were the best, if not arguably the best team in football at that time, and we beat them. Those are impressive wins. You're not going to get a whole bunch of pats on the back for beating the 49ers. You all right? Like, how many cookies do you think you deserve for beating the 49ers? Sunday night was an impressive win. Just like the Rams game was an impressive win. And you barely beat the Rams. We beat the Rams by about, I would say about 3 inches. And those 3 inches I'm saying is if Cooper Kupp's arms were 3 inches longer, that dart that Jared Goff threw into the end zone that just went off of his hands, off of Cooper Kupp's hands. He catches that if his arms were a couple inches longer, just a little bit, he catches that ball and we lose. But that's neither here nor there. Last night, we took care of the NFL's consensus best team. Gave them their second loss on the year. Just like I said we would. I told you already, I'm going to tell you again, Seattle is going to win out. We will win out. If you aren't convinced that we're going to win out now, then you just are you're just not, you're not seeing it for what it is. You're not seeing the forest for the trees, or you just don't have faith, or you're not a Seahawk fan. We just knocked off the NFL's best team. Granted it was in Seattle and we, play well in Seattle, but even to that, hey, we were on a 2-game losing streak in the clink. Can't tell you last time that happened. But we had just dropped 2 in a row in Seattle. And we just held down the league's best team to 10 points. I said we were going to stop the running game of Philadelphia. That's exactly what we did. It was my presumption that we were going to just completely smother the running game and make Carson Wentz beat us. That's what we did. We held Ajayi to 35 yards on 9 carries. Blunt, 26 yards on 8 carries. Clement was 3 for 7. He didn't really do anything. More than I would say more than the than we clamped down on the run. We held serve. And that's what really made us able to play that way. When you are holding serve the whole game, you don't get a chance. The other team doesn't get a chance to run the ball like they want to. When you're playing from behind, you don't run the ball as often. You don't, because you can't. You simply can't run the ball as much when you're playing from behind. As long as you're losing, as long as you have less points on the scoreboard than the other team, the clock is ticking. Really, the clock is ticking. And every tick tock means that much more when you're playing from behind. So us being able to hold serve, going out there and scoring 10 points in the first quarter. When did we score 10 points in the first quarter? We scored the very first, let me see if I can say this right. We scored the very first quarter touchdown against the Eagles this season. Eagles had not given up a first quarter touchdown all year until Sunday night. We really, if you ask me, put ourselves back in the conversation. We jumped from the number 7 seed, which is outside the playoffs, all the way to number 5. Because somehow, I'm not sure exactly what the details are, but we do have the advantage over Carolina. So Carolina's at 6, we're at 5. And we're only a game back of the Rams, and the Rams had to play Philly. Hopefully the Rams don't have as much fortune as we did against these Eagles next week. Because we literally could be in the, 3rd spot next week. After it's all said and done, are the Rams the 3rd or what are the Rams, 3rd or the 4th seed? Let me see here. The Rams are currently so the Rams are currently 3rd. Tied with the Rams by record are the Saints, but the Rams have the have a tiebreaker on them somehow. So if we beat Jacksonville next week and our friends the Eagles beat the Rams, we will jump to the 3rd spot. We'll jump to the third spot. We won't make any ground on Philly, unfortunately. They'll go to 11-2. But we'll go up to 3. That's the third spot, people. That's division win. That's the third seed. That's a home game in the playoffs. That's a home game in the playoffs. And at that point, we're only 2 games, behind home field advantage. Well, not home field advantage, but almost home field advantage. We're 2 games behind first round bye is what I should say. I kind of consider the first and second seed to be home field advantage, even though it's not. Obviously, only the first seed gets home field advantage. But if you're the second seed, you get home field advantage as well, unless, of course, you end up playing the number 1 seed. So you're automatically going to get, 2 home games. You get your first game. If you're the second seed, you're going to get the bye. Then you have the divisional round at home. And then unless, of course, you play the 1 seed, in the conference round, you're playing at home again. So there's a good chance, even at the 2 spot, you take home field advantage throughout the playoffs. There's a good chance. Decent chance. Seattle, once we get to the playoffs, the road has to go through Seattle. That's just if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you want the road to go through the clink. So by the end of next Sunday, we could be just 2 games out of the first round bye, with 3 games left to play. It may be a long shot. I may be, reaching, but hey, why not? But we can take this division. We're going to take this division. And don't forget, we still have to play the Rams the following week. After Jacksonville, we got the Rams. We're going to take this division. We are going to win the West. Anybody, if you aren't sure, let me be the one to reassure you. The Seattle Seahawks are going to win the NFC West. Whether or not we end up in the 3 or the 4 spot, who knows? But we're going to win the West. We're going to play at the clink in January. Believe it. Believe that. So, the defense played great Sunday night. We held Carson Wentz, did his thing. You can't really take that away from him. He threw for over 300 yards. We really just played well. We were opportunistic. I said in my article that the opportunistic defense was going to force a turnover, and that did happen. My prediction didn't go exactly as predicted, but we did force a turnover when Carson Wentz was running in what would have been I believe the game tying touchdown. I think it was Sheldon Richardson caused the fumble. The fumble that goes out of the back of the end zone, you can credit Michael Wilhoit for that. Because that ball, I don't know what, the ball came out of Wentz's hands and looked like it kicked off of the foot of Wilhoit or off somebody's foot, and it kind of went up in the air a little bit. And then Wilhoit threw a block on the Eagle player. I don't know if it was a lineman or receiver, who it was, but he threw a block on the Eagle player who would have been in position to recover the football. And I don't remember the rule. I think if you fumble the ball from outside of the end zone and you fumble it forward, then into the end zone, then it becomes you get the ball goes back. The ball goes back to the spot of the fumble, right? Something like that. So I'm not sure. But I'm not sure what would have happened if the Eagles would have recovered it. But Wilhoit, while the ball was still rolling in the end zone, put a block on the Eagle player, and then he got his feet out of bounds and then went to recover the football, which at that point, he had the presence of mind to make sure his feet were out of bounds when he touched the football. If you go back at the replay and watch it, he made sure his feet were on the white. And then he grabbed the football, which at that point automatically makes it a touchback. Automatically makes it a touchback. So there was no chance for a recovery or anybody jumping on top of him and maybe fooling the refs into thinking that they somehow got the ball at the bottom of the pile. No, it was over right there. So that was a great play by Will Hoyt. I think he really made the play by throwing the block on the Eagle player. That just made it take longer for anybody to get to the ball, so the ball could travel closer to the edge, to the back line of the end zone. Great play. But just a complete, an all around complete game. I said before, Wentz threw for 348 and made a couple of great throws. He had one later in the game when I think we only rushed 3 guys, and I don't know if it was Richardson or somebody was bearing down on Wentz, and while being grabbed from behind, Wentz tossed the ball like 45 yards in the air, and got it to I want to say it was Aguilar. Right over the hands of who? Byron Maxwell, who also gave up the touchdown earlier. The one touchdown they scored was also on Byron Maxwell. I told you guys, why are you so excited about signing Byron Maxwell? You don't need to be all that excited about signing Byron Maxwell. Byron Maxwell gave up the 2 biggest plays of the game. And don't talk to me about the interception he made at the end of the game. That was garbage. That was a garbage play. I mean, Wentz threw that ball up. The game was already over anyway, but Wentz threw that ball up, and it was ill-advised. There was nothing. There was 2 or 3 Seahawks down there with their one receiver. That ball was not going to be caught. And in my opinion, even the way he intercepted the ball, Byron Maxwell intercepted the ball, he just put his hands up. If the receiver had a little bit more of his feet under him, he might have been able to jump in front of Maxwell and catch that pass. Maxwell didn't make any physical physical move to make sure he got the ball at the highest point or anything like that. No, he didn't do it. He just caught a ball that was coming to him, just like he was playing catch in the front yard. Gave up the big play to Aguilar for the touchdown, got beat, and then on that one I just mentioned where Wentz just chucked it, just underplayed the ball. Should have been an interception had he just remained deep enough, but he got it over the hands. But Wentz got it over Maxwell's hands. This isn't to just bash on Maxwell, but it's just like, to my point, what I was saying the whole time when we were talking about signing him. I'm like, you guys relax. Byron Maxwell is not the savior of the LOB. He's added depth at the corner position at best. The only people still think that Byron Maxwell was a great corner. Byron Maxwell was never a great corner. He wasn't a great corner when Miami let him go just recently. He wasn't a great corner when Philly let him go. And he wasn't a great corner when he was with Seattle. And he wasn't an original member of the LOB. I keep hearing that. He wasn't the original LOB. The original LOB was Sherman, Chancellor, Thomas, and Brandon Browner, not Byron Maxwell. Byron Maxwell was the next up after Browner left. But, just like Browner, Byron Maxwell and Brandon Browner had similar situations with their exit from the Seattle Seahawks roster. They got a lot of praise for being great corners or being very good corners, left the team, went elsewhere, and had nowhere near the same success. Matter of fact, they had pretty poor showings with their respective teams after the Seattle Seahawks. Why? Because they weren't that good in the first place. Again, when I say not that good, I'm comparing to Richard Sherman, who's arguably one of the best corners ever to play. But that being said, Brandon Browner was only as good as he was because Sherman was on the other side. Byron Maxwell was only as good as he was because Sherman was on the other side. There's an advantage. It's a competitive advantage to know that the ball is coming to you. You can play the position different. The scheme is, okay, they're not throwing it at Sherman, so let's go ahead and let's shade coverages to Maxwell's side or to Browner's side. They can play the game differently because they know they're not going to throw it at Sherman. It's a foregone conclusion. They're not going to test Sherman because they know when you test Sherman, you get got. Sherman will get you if you test him. So they don't even bother. So now you know the ball is going to the left side of the field, not the right. Now you play a little bit better, a better defense in that respect. You just know. Brandon Browner had that same advantage, and Byron Maxwell had that same advantage. And it's really obvious because Byron Maxwell, it's maybe a little bit of irony against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are the team who signed Byron Maxwell to the big, I want to say it was like $40 million contract or something like that because of how good he was. And he was gone after the first season. He was gone. I traded him to Miami after one season. They were like, wait a minute, this is not what we thought we were getting. Then he went to Miami and just got cut. So I tried to tell you guys not to get so high on Byron Maxwell. But hey, Byron Maxwell does know the system, and he's the best of a bad situation at this point, I would say. But anyway, it's a great win. This is an impressive win. This is the kind of win I've been waiting to see the Seahawks have all year long. This is what I've been waiting to see. Going up against a good team, going up against a team that was favored over you. I don't know if the Seahawks have been the underdog at all this season. Maybe against Green Bay, probably, I guess. I have to go back and check. I think we might have been the dog against Green Bay, but I don't think we were dogs against LA at LA. Maybe we were. Certainly we were the underdog. The line on this game, we opened up as 4-point underdogs at the clink. That means everybody did, and nobody thought that Seattle had a chance on Sunday night. We opened up as 4-point or 4.5, and by the time kickoff, it was 6. By the time kickoff came about, Seattle was 6-point underdogs. They were getting 6 against this Eagles team. I know odds don't really mean anything, but they do kind of mean something. Odds makers are smart people. They're right most of the time. And we go out there and we beat them 24-10. We keep them out of the end zone until the fourth quarter, and we hold serve against them all game long. That's an impressive win. And that is only the second impressive win we've had this year. Now we're going to go to Jacksonville, a team who's playing very good. A win against Jacksonville will be an impressive win. Doesn't have to be a blowout. Doesn't have to be a 24-10. Doesn't have to be, a mud stomp. But we go into Jacksonville. We go on the road onto the East Coast and play a good football team a team who's playing well. You can't argue with that. Jacksonville is playing good football right now. We go out there. We beat Jacksonville. That'll be an impressive win. We come back to the clink and play the Rams. That'll be an impressive win. We go to Dallas. That'll be an impressive win. And then, in the season against the Cardinals, who knows? At that point, who knows what that game will mean? But that'll be an impressive win. So, Jaguars next week, afternoon game. I think actually all of our games are afternoon for the rest of the year. Jaguars, Rams, Cowboys, Cardinals. Not an easy stretch, but I'm telling you, Seattle's going to win out. We're going to go into Jacksonville and play hard. I see that game probably being probably a low scoring game. I don't see a lot of firepower coming out of that game. Just, two teams that aren't all that familiar with each other. You probably, you play a little more cautious. So I see that game being, 16-10, 17-10 type of thing. And like I said, come home against the Rams. That's the big one. December 17th at the Clink for the against the Rams, probably for the division right there, probably for at least first place in the division. We want to win that game because that'll give us the tiebreaker. We have the tiebreaker now. If we split, then it's a wash. It goes to some different tiebreaker, but we don't even have to worry about if we win on the in the Rams game, the tiebreaker with the Rams, we don't mind having the same record as them because we got the tiebreaker on them, right? Woo, what a game. Great game, great atmosphere. We don't lose on prime time. That meant that the Atlanta Falcon game was an anomaly. We perform when the world is watching. And we're going to win this out. We're going to win out this season. I'm telling you, we're going to win out. I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks now. We're going to win out. All right, Hawks, that's all I got. Thank you for listening. This is Rob English. This is Short Yardage. And I will talk to you next week. Go Hawks.